Welcome to the next episode of my vlog. Been back for a week, or actually a week yesterday, and I've got an ebook to talk about and another one on the way that I'm halfway through, but I thought I'd just say, hey, how's it going? It's been good to be home, although you wouldn't know that Wellington's in level 3 still, especially yesterday. It was, I swear, everybody who owns a surfboard in Wellington was at Lyell Bay. I went to go and pick up my groceries and actually got caught in a traffic jam along the Esplanade onto Queen's Drive, which is... so I didn't go for a walk yesterday. Friday, because I've been doing my loop, I had a bit of an epic fail walking. I was aiming at an 8-9k walk along the road, down onto Queen's Drive, all the way along to the Esplanade to Efira Bay and back. It's roughly 8k's that particular loop. And I started, and I'd done a couple of walks before. We had rain, we had wind, and then when the weather was fine, it started to... And I was like, oh, my calves aren't... Thought it was because it was on an incline, and you know how they can get a bit sore when you start? I thought, okay, well, you know, they'll stretch out. Got to the end, went down the stairs, thought, you know, going downhill would help. No, it didn't. Then I went, okay, well, I'm now on the flat. Well, relatively flat. There's still ups and downs all along the way. By the time I got, all the way around Princess Bay to Houghton Bay at the propeller, I sort of thought, well, they're not okay. Shelley has learnt this the hard way. Listen to your body. It's trying to tell you something, and sometimes I don't, or I listen after the fact. It's like, well, you know, I've still got another 5k to go, and these haven't actually sorted themselves out yet. So turned around, started going up Houghton Bay Road to home, and as Strava shows, I stopped at the bottom of the hill at the bus stop and looked and just went, ooh. It's about 200 odd meters up a fairly steep hill and over a rise from their home, and I would have spent 15 minutes stretching out my ankles and calves, feeling incredibly sheepish, watching people play touch rugby on the area down there, going, oh, okay, this is why one stretches before one does stuff like this. Do that again. Audience, you will not believe how long it took me to walk up that hill. It is actually kind of embarrassing. I haven't had cramps like that in my calves for years. So it's been lots of anti-flam and the Voltaren gel and magnesium tablets. Glorious things. Every time I go over to Oz, I get a effervescent pack of 10. I think they're Voom or something like that. When I went to the Underwater Rugby Nationals, God, there must be about 2 years ago now, in Adelaide, the girls introduced me to them. Put 2 in your water bottle, sip all day. Stuff is magic. So I've been on the magnesium tabs, and legs are starting to forgive me. We're going to see about doing the loop walk again. I miss the 5-meter waves here. I'm still gutted. Every time there have been 5-meter waves in Wellington on the south coast, I've not been in the city. But what it has done is it brought significant amounts of kelp, because we've got kelp forests all along here, onto the shore. So there's the smell of rotting kelp, which makes me really homesick for an area that I lived in for a couple of years in South Africa called Komaki, where you would have that cold ocean smell, which we have here, and kelp and seagulls, and it's been like that every walk. It's just incredibly nostalgic, just like the light at the moment being autumn. There's a certain light, and things like those sensory things really bring back memories, and it's nice to just actually be able to savor that memory rather than power through it with, you know, news or something like that playing on my headphones. I'm actually going to go for a walk after this. I think it's an interesting smell. A lot of people can't really palate it, but yeah, it is an inherent part of my childhood. That and sea fog, and foghorns from sea fog. Yeah, the joys of growing up in Cape Town. So, as I said in my last video, I was looking forward to the Rise of Skywalker, the Rae Carson Rise of Skywalker. So I finished that in one sitting, basically. It's 9-ish hours, so it's a bit more than watching the original 3 trilogy, which is 6 hours-ish. Around about the same as, you know, the Return of the King Extended Edition. Might be slightly exaggerating, but not by much. It was great. I haven't really... how do I say this? I didn't mind The Rise of Skywalker. It irked me in some ways. That there were some editing things that I wasn't entirely sure about. And it was a real pity that they had to cut quite a few of the Carrie Fisher scenes because the CGI wasn't quite where they wanted it to be. So the book was great. It, as with the other 2 sequel books, audiobooks I have, all 3, yes, are read by Mark Thompson, and they have the sound effects, they have the soundtrack. It's not your normal audiobook. And that's the other reason why I really like it. But this addresses the internal thoughts of the characters which are missing. It adds deleted scenes, it adds context, it adds all those scenes with Carrie as Leia that we didn't have, because in the movie Maz is sort of there and it's like, wait, what? And Rose is sort of there but doesn't really do much. Whereas this brings all those bits that were done with Leia into context. I also have the Resistance Reborn, which is the story which happens between Crate and Rise of Skywalker, which, if you don't know or didn't know existed, actually addresses one of the really glary plot points that happens in the movie, which we've now had quite a long time, so I'm not going to say spoiler alert. Well, right at the end at Exegol, where all these ships turn up and you're like, how the hell did that happen? Well, that's all addressed in Resistance Reborn. The one thing that they really could have done in the movie, and I don't know why they didn't, which they address in the book, it's not a retcon, because they're not trying to... I'm pretty sure it was in the script, but someone decided not to do it. When Ben Solo sacrifices himself for Rey, he vanishes. We don't see a Force ghost. He's just, you know, he's gone. They sort of address that in the book in a very, very nice way, which has spawned a myriad of fan fiction hypotheticals about fix-its and things like that. Well, from a space opera point of view and a fairy tale point of view, he kind of had to die. He wasn't going to get a happy ending. That's not... He redeemed himself. He gave the universe back their shiny, happy protagonist. All is good within the mythological world. In a story. Anyway, I liked it. It's added far more weight to what we did have. I will always be irked that they cut far more than they needed to. they could have added an extra 25 minutes of footage to that movie without batting an eyelid, and it would have been fine. Hell, hi, we've got, you know, run times, again, dare I say, Return of the King. Titanic, I remember that Titanic was actually sort of split in half. Never saw it. I'm just remembering. Maybe it's an urban legend, not sure. Anyway, so the Rae Carson Rise of Skywalker was really fantastic as far as the books go, and I've enjoyed all three of the sequel books. I haven't got the prequels. I'm not comfortable acknowledging the prequels exist. It's still too soon. I may have to. I'll do the machete order in the next couple of weeks. For those who've never heard of the machete order, it's a way of watching Star Wars, with the focus basically being on the rise and fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker, with these now sequels amended or added, tacked on. But when you look at it as well, it continues the Darth Vader Anakin Skywalker theme. So it would be Rogue One, which of all the sequels and all that is by far the best. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and then you go to the Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones. See, I don't really even know my prequels. And then you do Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi. So that takes out Phantom Menace, even though it's got one of the best lightsaber fight scenes in Duel of the Fates. It's got Jar Jar Binks, and really it does nothing for the whole story of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. And then you would watch The Mandalorian, because it's set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and then you would start with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. So I'll do that. And I'll catch up with all the Clone Wars and Rebellion animated stuff, which I kind of haven't yet. Oops. I loved N.K. Jemsin's Broken Earth series. She got Hugo Awards for all three, and the eco-dystopian, slightly fantastical with criticism and observation that was the Broken Earth series was fantastic. Her world building is incredible, and this, from about 4 hours in, even though it's like 3 chapters, the city we became is awesome. Again, you've got that whole city as consciousness and character and personality, and if you've traveled, you'll know different cities have different vibes, and this is basically taking that, but more than that, it's the personalities of the different parts of the city that's being set in. Here is New York, and there are elements of that Lovecraftian Gothic noir. Now I know there was a discussion between her and Neil Gaiman last week where Gaiman mentioned Lovecraft, and people immediately said that, you know, he was talking about Lovecraft as a person and, you know, comparing. Well, no, he wasn't. He was talking about the Lovecraftian features, and yes, Lovecraft was a horrible, horrible person. But his characters and his literary elements have basically taken a life of their own without his shadow and influence and all those sort of things. So I may get roasted for that, but hey, literature, comparative literature, interpretation, so on and so forth. Anyway, she has the horror elements of, you know, Cthulhu and the Nameless Gods rising from the deep in some areas, and her observations of the stereotypes of different people in New York is is fascinating, and it's vivid, and I've never been to New York, and I don't actually think I would go, to be completely honest. Just too much for me. But the way in which she's describing the different areas and what's happening within this city is really, really engaging. It draws you in, which is why, like I say, if I had been reading a paper copy of the book, you probably wouldn't see me for the duration. I'd probably forget to eat, let alone sleep. It's really, and it needs all your attention, which is why it's basically been on my headphones while I've been doing mindless things. So not even knitting, it's quite literally washing the dishes, folding the laundry, doing the gardening sort of stuff, so I can really concentrate about what's happening with these characters. And it's just, I love her world building. I haven't encountered anyone who does it as well as that since probably Gaiman, and to a certain extent Eddings, and of course Tolkien. But you know, for me that goes without saying. I'll talk more about it when I'm actually finished, but it is fantastic, and hopefully the next one I'm waiting on that's sort of pre-ordered is a book by a lass called Chuck Body, and I'm really sorry if I've actually mispronounced her name, and it's called City of Brass, and it's a trilogy, and it's again the sort of alternate worlds between magic and the mundane, for want of a better term. And I was left on an absolute cliffhanger in the last book that I read, so I'm waiting really, really patiently for this to come out. And I'll probably go back and re-listen to Sarah Maas's Crescent City, because there are a couple of things there that just sort of, you know, tickling the back of my brain. I'm still trying to figure out how this one was considered more adult fiction than the other ones that she's written, like a Court of Frost and Roses, and Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass, yes, you have characters that are, well, the youngest character, Selena, she's what, 18, 19. So the only real difference is Bryce Quinlan's 25? That's the only real difference. The rest of the stuff is pretty much of a muchness. So still kind of confused about the whole differentiation in young adult versus adult fiction there. The two books that I was really hoping would have arrived before I left for Whakatane and were waiting for me when I got back are these two. So I do have some paper books. My physio told me about this one. It's called The Book of Overthinking, and she is fantastic, and we have the same sort of brain processing about overthinking things or completely overestimating our body's ability to do things and so on and so forth. So if she says a book is good, I'm going to take it and read it. And it is by Gwendoline Smith, otherwise known as Dr. No. She is a Kiwi, and it is a adult's basically guide to getting out of the negative cycle that is overthinking things. And it's basically, it's cognitive behavioral therapy with humor, and it's lovely because there are illustrations and it's easy to read, so bigger text, spaced, so anyone can be able to read it. It has flashcards about, you know, what are called thought viruses and thought records, and there are things in here that have been covered in podcasts like You Are Not So Smart, which I listen to, and it's going next to my bed because it looks really, really good. And having done CBT going on 7 years now, it's all good. Because I got this, I kind of had to get this one. So this is called the Book of Knowing, and it's for youth basically, but there are things in it about choices and feelings, and again CBT for teenagers. But there are many people in their 30s, 40s and 50s who still probably think like teenagers. So you know, it's never too early or too late to start learning. And so I totally got this one as well to go through it. Again, really cool little cartoons and spaced words and big type, so anyone, even if you've got difficulty with reading, can work with it. So these two are going next to my bed, and my audiobook is going with me, and it's just nice to be able to, well, now that I'm in my bubble and back by myself, I kind of, this is how I fill the silence when I don't want silence. Knitting. So Camp COVID has been incredibly productive for me. I finished a Letlopi vest, which is hanging in my cupboard because it's unseasonably hot here, so I stopped wearing it. A fisherman's cap for my dad. Those who I have promised caps to, they're coming. I need to actually find where the other half of my Malabrigo worsted is to do that. So they're on their way, I promise. I need to do some more. They're lovely quick knits. I definitely want one myself because there's nothing like lovely squishy Malabrigo, and the hat that I knitted myself about 12 years ago is probably getting a little too small for me now. I also finished my niece's little sister's dress with a beautiful 3-color Fibonacci stripe because it's aesthetically pleasing and it's geeky as hell, and it's currently soaking, so I'll be blocking it soon and finding where the hell I put the buttons because it kind of needs buttons. But I knitted it in niche, and I've actually even got the colors here. So really cute, really happy colors. Not quite my, I wouldn't wear these as me, but she's gorgeous. So this is Snitch Sock, and this is called A Moment of Quiet Reflection, and I used 1.5 skeins of this. Peach Melba, and you can see how gloriously variegated that colour is and semi-solid, and it's just beautiful. I've also knitted a pair of socks for Mum in this. And Lemon Sherbet, which, well, sorry, Sherbet Lemon Sherbet. It actually looks like the colour of sherbet lemons. I know this because at work I have a packet of proper sherbet lemons. So these three together, lovely, happy, cheerful little sister's dress for a 1-year-old. She's a big girl, so I've made it as a 1-year-old so she can wear it as a dress and then as a tunic, so she's not going to blink and miss it, suddenly be completely outgrown her glorious clothing that I have put blood, sweat and COVID tears into. Haha, jokes. I'm also halfway through Bodyland of my Moonbow elf, also in Singularity, which is sitting over there, and I have found the pattern. I'm quite excited about this. It's called Edgetown Light, that I'm going to use for the sweater lot of dye stock yarn that I got from Rachel last year. Yes, it was last year. That's been waiting for the perfect pattern for it, and it's a beautiful simple v-neck with a split hem and really delicate ribbing before the ribbing on the cuffs, and it'll showcase the yarn. So I'm quite excited about that, and I'll probably skein that up in the next couple of days. Then I need to get the elf done first. So that's my books, that's my knitting, and there will be more adventures of Shelley trying not to hurt herself while she walks around the south coast, stuck in COVID level 3, hopefully level 2 soon, and so on and so forth. I'll hit you guys up the next time I have a book to talk about, or something to show off from a knitting side of things. So, you'll take care, keep warm, keep well, wash your hands, don't be a covidiot, and may the force be with you.